Hello and welcome to Daily Politics, reaching you from Trust TV here in Abuja. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. My name is Suleiman. Unlike the ruling APC, which just held its convention only last week, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has kicked off its primary elections for all elective offices in the country, including for the star prize, the presidential ticket. Party bigwigs like former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Senate President Bukola Saraki, Governor of Sokoto State Aminu Tambuwal, Governor of Bauchi State Bala Muhammad, and Governor of Rivers State Nyesom Wike have all declared their interest and obtained their nomination forms. However, PDP's presidential primary election has been marred by controversies over zoning. Some of the candidates, mostly from the northern part of the country, appear to stand against zoning, while others, mainly Rivers Governor Wike, insist on zoning. On Monday, Wike said that Atiku, Saraki, Tambuwal, and other northern aspirants are violating the PDP's principles of zoning and rotation of power. The provision of our constitution, he said, quote, is clear under Section 7, subsection 3C. The section said that rotation of party offices should be, and elective offices should be, by the founding fathers, should be rotated. Because they know the diversity of this country, and they made sure that for equity, fairness, and justice, this should be done. Meanwhile, Benue State Governor and Chairman of the PDP Zoning Committee, Samuel Otom, on Tuesday in Abuja, reaffirmed the commitment of the 37-man committee to producing a zoning formula, which he said will reflect the diversity in the party, even as the leadership of the party in the Southeast has reiterated its demand for the zoning of the presidential position of the party in 2023 to southern Nigeria. So tonight we ask, will the zoning issue consume the PDP? And is the opposition doing enough to give the APC a run for its money next year? With me in the studio to discuss these issues is Dr. Kashmir Ifeanyi, who is a public health consultant and, of course, a generalist because he's a public affairs analyst as well. Also with me is Mr. Abdul Karim Haruna, the editor at Human Angle Media and former assistant editor at Premium Times newspaper. You're welcome to Daily Politics, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
before we jump straight into it, we'll take a moment of a break. When we return, we'll be right here for you, as you are for us. Stay with us.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we are discussing the issues around the major opposition party, PDP, as we inch towards the 2023 elections. So I start with you, Dr. Ifeanyi. Let's start with Wike's declaration, first and foremost. What does it add to the PDP slate of presidential candidates so far? Before him, about 6 people had picked up the nomination forms. So he's coming into it. What does it mean for the wider PDP ticket altogether?
Well, they would say the more the merrier. And I think what is pertinent for the People's Democratic Party is clinching power. Their priority is about regaining power at the center. And so whatever the party would do to regain power at the center should take precedence over any other primordial consideration. I am one of those who believe that rotation is primordial. It is primordial because it succumbs and submits to the sentiments ethnic, tribal, religious sentiments that had held this country down for decades. And of course, that is about consuming our country. Because these primordial considerations account for why we've not been able to evolve into a nation more than 50 years after, in fact, 60 years after independence. So, the entrance of His Excellency Governor Nyesom Wike into the contest for the presidential ticket of the PDP is a welcome development. It's welcome because the argument of those proponents of zoning is that since we have a president of northern extraction in the person of President Muhammadu Buhari, who has been in the saddle for 7 years plus and will be completing 8 years, 2 tenures by next year, that presumably power should move to the other flank, southern Nigeria. So, His Excellency Governor Nyesom Wike is, of course, of the southern Nigeria extraction. So he has not breached any of the permutations for zoning. It's a welcome development, and there are a whole lot more that, of course, have indicated interest, particularly from that zone and in the party. Persons like the former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, persons like the immediate past national president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Chief Ohabunwa, and of course the former Senate President, Chief Pius Anyim. So the number of Southerners who are members of the People's Democratic Party, heavyweights for that matter, who have indicated interest in that plumb position, they are increasing by the day. I would want to believe that between now and Friday, bearing last-minute adjustment in the timetable released by the People's Democratic Party, because by Friday, that will be the end of the sale of forms, except there's an extension, a whole lot more would have joined in the race, and then the conversation can now begin properly.
This is interesting, Malanra, isn't it? Because the argument within the PDP for those who support the zoning formula is basically two. One, that in 2019, Wike said this clearly, that in 2019 they agreed that the presidency should be zoned to the north, which is how Atiku emerged as their presidential candidate, and which is why there was nobody from the south of Nigeria in 2019 who contested the ticket at the time. So they feel that one turn deserves another this time. So how does that argument work out in 2023, just 4 years later?
Yeah, just as Doctor has said, I think it amounts to the issue of fairness when you zone or you rotate the presidency of the country. And I think that's where those that are agitating for zoning in the PDP to go to the south, the president should go to the south, are basing their argument that it is amounting to, it's a matter of being fair to each other, because we supported you in 2019 that the presidency should go to the north, and we went into the election. Of course, they didn't win, but at least there was that agreement that it should go to the south. And if you look at the main ruling party, there's that indication that they may likely be zoning to the southern part of the country. I think it is fair that the PDP does that too. But I think the argument of those that are talking about retaining the presidency in the north is that the two zonings that were done in the past did not favor the PDP, that the north, that PDP politicians in the north have not been lucky with the presidency in all the zonings that they've had, so that they are looking at within the confines of their own party that the northern PDP members deserve to have a chance again, so that the North should have a bite of it as PDP-controlled federal government, possibly in 2023. But I see that as a bit selfish, because it's not all about one person. We are talking about Nigeria, because when we come out of the 2020 election, whoever emerges is going to be the presidency of the country, and outside party, we are all Nigerians. So I think it is advisable for the PDP not allow this the zoning issue to rock the party, because it may affect their chances in the coming election.
Thank you. Doctor, that's precisely what makes it interesting. The last comment made by Maila Haruna, that if the zoning is allowed to rock the party, then it can be a problem for them in the election. The argument is that you are in the opposition. You don't have power yet. You're actually seeking this power. You want to capture power from a ruling party. You don't have the power. So maybe your problem should not be zoning at this stage. You know, for example, in 2015, the APC, they didn't worry about zoning. They just opened the floor for everyone in an open contest, and whoever won went in to represent the party in the elections. So there is the argument that if the PDP has power, then it can decide what to do with that power. But the first thing is to get back the power. How does that argument, square with the argument about fairness in relation to North and South in terms of sharing power?
Thank you. As far as I'm concerned, what we need to zone is zoning out insecurity. What we need to zone is zoning out poverty. What we need to zone is zoning out the challenges we have with the energy in the energy sector. What we need to zone is zoning out inflation. What we need to zone is zoning out unemployment. I am looking for a president that will speak to these things, and not whether he is of southern extraction or northern extraction. And I think the common people that we're seeking to serve in the street, that are bearing the current brunt of failed governance, they are not looking for a southern language speaking person, because it will not solve this problem. The problem we have requires a man for the job. As an opposition party, for me, what should be cardinal to the People's Democratic Party is, who would we field, irrespective of where he or she comes from, that will get power for us? That must be paramount. Let me say why this is important. These things I mentioned bedeviling our country do not spare the North or the South. It's cross-cutting. And so that's why that should drive the conversation. If we go to the arithmetic of what had happened between 1999 till date, you will find out that cumulatively, irrespective of party, by the time President Muhammad Buhari is done and gone, presidency would have been with the North for a total number of 10 years. And presidency would have been in the South for a cumulative number of 14 years, meaning that there is a differential of 4 years between the North and the South. And so that goes to support my position on this matter for PDP. Who is that credible person? Not in terms of deep pocket, but that when he stands, the average person on the street, the poor man will say, with this person, I think our future.
But
can,
Doctor,
yes.
Some people will argue against this argument that Nigerians don't vote that way. Not every Nigerian voter considers these issues when they vote. They vote sometimes with considerations of their own affiliation to the candidates. Maybe affiliation with respect to religion, with respect to region or state, and sometimes even within a state, affiliation to senatorial district or even village. So if many Nigerians vote this way, how do you account for groups who feel excluded from the system, particularly in terms of having a shot at the top job?
Thank you very much. You have situated the conversation a lot more central. The point need be made, and people will shy away from it. I'm going to say something that will not sit well with most of my Southern brothers. No Southerner will get power without the holistic support and endorsement of the North. It's a game of number. And by our current statistics for today, the number seems to be in the North. And so if the number apparently is in the North for today, nobody would say he's going to get power if you rubbish the North. So it's very important that in this conversation, you said something before I came to speak on this, that the point is power presently is in the North, but not for the PDP. It is for the APC. So the only party that is duty bound to zone to the South, totally duty bound, if zoning is part of their tenets in their constitution, to zone to the South, is the APC. Because you can give only that which you have. So you can't give what you do not have. The PDP currently have nothing to zone. The power is not with them. There's absolutely nothing for them to zone. So what they should be zoning is the material candidate that will get power and bring them back to power. It is when you get power that you zone power. APC has power. That's why the conversation is a lot easier there. They've had it in the North. So, invariably it should go southward. However, if these two leading parties decide to put power, zone their presidential candidates to the North, to the South, whoever would pick it will depend on where the North wants it to go. So it's a major consideration. What is the strength of the People's Democratic Party in the North as of today? It is something we need to consider critically. So, for me, the party, yes, must not allow zoning to rock it. But I think that PDP is a lot more robust than we think. Because the party had to come from behind since 2015 to where it is presently. And with the discontent in the country, a whole lot are looking up to PDP to provide a credible alternative. They may not have been a credible opposition, but they can provide a credible alternative by throwing up a candidate, North or South, that can speak to the myriad of issues bedeviling Nigeria. It's very important. That is the thing that I should consider the pivot or compass that should guide whatever the 37-man committee is discussing. It's important. Recently, one of their members just jumped ship, and he said the reason why he jumped ship, which is a major crowd puller in northern Nigeria, is because they had issues in his state, and the national leadership of the party didn't look his direction to find out how to sort out the matters he had with the state structure of the party. So it's important that we look at the strength of PDP in the North at the moment. If we give them, if they sit their presidential ticket to the North, do we have the base, the PDP followership base in the North to pull it through and get power? If they do not have, let us therefore complement it. Whatever we have in the North, let's use that to complement the followership in the South, which had remained consistent. Even in some states that claim that they are now APC states, they are only APC within the government house. As you move away from the government house, you are meeting PDP. That is the truth. So that's what we should be looking at.
Doctor, you have raised a very important question. And since we have a political reporter here, so I will just throw that question straight at you. To what extent? Because Governor Aminu Tambuwal, Dr. Bukola Saraki, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and Dr. Balaya Muhammad, of Bauchi State, all of them are saying that this should be about who can win, that the votes are here on this part of the Niger River, and so on. But to what extent is this really true on the ground? When people are dissatisfied with Buhari, when people say they have issues with the APC government, do they look sideways to see that the PDP is on the corner, or they just, you know, what's going on? How strong is PDP in northern Nigeria, actually?
Yeah, presently, I think the alternative to the APC, no doubt about it, is the PDP. Yes, because it's the biggest party so far that is in the opposition now. And yes, of course, the PDP is a major party. But if you look at the history of elections in Nigeria, you look at the issue of the incumbency factor, especially when it comes to a party that has been in power for like 8 years and so on, and the number of states they are controlling. So far, though doctors said that some of the states that are claiming APC now are in the government house, but it still matters a lot when you are an incumbent. So I think for the PDP, they can only convince Nigerians, given this present situation in the country. Look at the crisis of insecurity, look at the crisis of poverty, look at the crisis of oil and so on, lack of job, look at the ASU strike.
But are they provoked? Because it's one thing to be a major opposition party, but it's another thing totally to be an alternative in the minds of the voters. That one vote, because this was what the APC was in 2013, 2014, and up to the time of the elections in 2015. You know, they were successful at presenting themselves as a party that Nigerians can look at and see that, okay, this is an alternative. If I'm tired of PDP, at least we can now give the APC a chance. Is that what Nigerians are thinking of when they look at PDP now?
A lot of Nigerians are talking about PDP as an alternative.
Okay.
But it boils down to who the APC is fielding as their candidate come 2023. Because if the candidate is the one that's in the mind of the people, definitely it will be a very big fight for the PDP. Yes. So, but if the APC makes mistake and bring out a candidate that the Nigerians don't like or given the history of that candidate or any other thing they've had against the candidate, definitely PDP is going to take the 2023. But that's why the APC has to be very careful about who they are fielding come 2023. So it's the candidate that matters now. And you know, in Nigeria, a lot of
does that mean that the choice of the APC's candidate will depend on what happens in the PDP?
In the PDP.
Why so?
Because they have to look, sometimes you have to look behind the party. I believe the APC is already gauging the pulse of Nigerians, who is their best candidate. Not in the mind of politicians, but ordinary Nigerians. This is social media. People are reading and listening to what people are saying. People are, okay, among the likely candidates. Of course, we've not had any candidate, but we know that some people have expressed their intentions here and there, and we know where the pulse is going in terms of social media and how people are reacting to it. So, and if the APC goes by what the people want, and coupled with the fact that they are in power, it may be a big fight for PDP to take power from them. But if they make the mistake of bringing out a candidate that cannot stand the candidate of the incumbent party, the ruling party, definitely it's a zero outing for them.
Okay. So, Doctor, one of the issues Wike raised was that the leading contenders in the PDP right now, Tambuwal, Atiku, Saraki, and so on, you know, they actually abandoned the PDP in 2014, and left, you know, the party. And it was he and other people who stayed, you know, to make sure that the PDP did not become extinct, to make sure that the PDP did not die. To what extent is that argument free, or to what extent does it give him as a candidate, you know, a greater leverage than the other candidates in the race?
I'm happy Wike, the governor of Rivers State, His Excellency, is the son of a pastor. So I will go philosophical. The Holy Writs, the Bible, told a story of a prodigal son who walked up to the father and said, "Give me my share of your estate." And the Bible said when he collected it, he went away. And after he had squandered it and went through penury, he returned home. And on his return, immediately the father sighted him. The father ran out, hugged him, changed his robe, and ordered for a banquet, that the choicest of their livestock be prepared for the banquet. He had a brother who was always with the father, who did not abandon home, who was tending the livestock and everything. And that one walked up to the father and said, "Is it because I'm a bad person? This man who squandered everything you had is back now and you are doing banquet. I have been with you always. What do I have for it?" And the father said, "This your brother was lost. Now he's back." So I take exception to the outburst by His Excellency Governor Nyesom Wike. Those outbursts were very unnecessary. I expected him. He has performed creditably, very well. In fact, he tops the record about performing governors in Nigeria, irrespective of party line. And so I expected him to canvass his interest on the basis of his performance, his credentials, what he's bringing to the table, and not castigating co-aspirants, whether they were there or they left. Now, let me tell you what...
But it is true, isn't it? When they left in 2015, that actually contributed to the defeat of the PDP in that election. That's incontrovertible.
Well, as incontrovertible as that may be, this is the point. In 2015, Nigerians did not actually vote for APC. Nigerians voted for a symbol in the person of President Muhammadu Buhari. And so, it was not because APC was the best of the parties, best organized party, best or better opposition. No. Nigerians felt they were tired with these people. And there was some sort of pedigree with President Muhammadu Buhari. And they wanted to try it out. Today, the rest is history, as they say. Now, having said that, we've tried that out, so we can tell better. For me, what do the other people he's castigating has, which he lacks, I'm going to bring to the fore. Did you notice that just yesterday, the 4 people you mentioned of northern extraction sat on a round table? Can my brother, Nyesom Wike, bring Pius Anyim, Peter Obi, all the southern brothers that are interested in the same ticket to sit on a round table and midwife a process that will throw up one? I am not a prophet, but I see all the gladiators in PDP of northern extraction coalescing into one candidate. I do not know anyone, but they certainly will coalesce into one. But that will be it will be easier for the bull to go through the eye of a needle than for that to happen in southern Nigeria. And that has been an albatross. Let me say that since 1999, that democracy returned till date, Southerners, particularly Southeasterners, had shown interest at the #1 position. In 1999, in fact, beyond 1999, let's say during the Moshood Abiola time, NRC, SDP, you can remember that Tofa and Dr. Sylvester Ugo contested.
Yes.
Sylvester Ugo was running mate to Tofa. An interest, that was the earliest interest after the Civil War by a Southeasterner to bounce back to national leadership. That happened. Now, coming down to 1999, you recall that persons like Alex Ekweme were interested. You recall that in 2003, in Plateau State, who truncated Ekweme's interest? His Igbo brothers. And in that particular election, we had about 10 Igbos who contested. In 2007, we had about 7 Igbos who contested in other different political platforms. People like Ojukwu, the former House of Reps Speaker, Umezuoke, and the rest of them, including Ojo Zokalo them. The record continued even up to 2015 and 2019. So the point is this: as we'll discuss this north-south zoning for the party, it might be necessary, particularly going by the argument of people like Governor Yahaya Bello, the governor of Kogi State, who had continued to harp that since independence, no North Central person has been president. And clearly, it is actually the Northeast, the North Central, and the Southeast that should be in the conversation for the two big parties. If we are sincere with the much touted and mounted equity and fairness.
In other words, even if the party zones its presidential ticket to the south,
yes,
it shouldn't be to the south-south.
It shouldn't be to the south-south or southwest.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Okay. If what we're trying to address is equity and fairness. Now, you see, I think that the PDP is prepared to play the role of an alternative. You know why? Look at the whole long list of aspirants, people who had declared and they have taken form. Even though the APC timetable is yet to be out, it is only on record that two persons, His Excellency Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu and His Excellency Governor Yahaya Bello, are the only two persons that have been bold enough to declare and say that they aspire for that office under the umbrella of APC. The rest are still romancing and lying prostrate like lizard. If you write something about them, the next day you get a disclaimer. So that is to show that the PDP is indeed prepared to take over power. Even if the timetable of APC is not out, it should be expected that all these other people that people are urging to come and run should come forth. Let me say this.
So
there's something that offends me.
I think maybe at this point we take a short break. When we return, we continue where you just stopped. Thank you for staying with us. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing issues around the PDP presidential primaries. And with me, two Nigerians who, well, in their various ways, they are not politicians, but they are quite involved in political issues. So, Male Haruna, let me, before I get back to the doctor, let me start with you. Do you think Wike has a point that those who left the party, you know, in its hour of need, they don't have that moral right to come back and say that the ticket is just for them automatically?
I would say yes and no. Okay. For a person that felt betrayed, felt abandoned when at the time he needed his colleagues most, and they left, and they went and formed a government, and they were in opposition to their own former party, and they said a lot of things at that time about their party and so on, and they stayed at home. They kept nurturing the party and to continue to do everything to see that the party survives, even though there have been also crises at that time. I think he has the right to feel begrudged that, look, it's not been fair. At the time, Wike was like the opposition to the federal government, because everything about PDP is about him, because he has all the resources to keep the party going. That is one. But I think he's wrong. I would say he doesn't have much point again on the other side, because when you are talking about coming to take over power, politicians say politics is the game of number. A number in the sense that not all about the electorate, even among the gladiators, the big guys, big names in your party. If somebody is coming back, I've never seen a situation where a politician will say, no, we are tired of receiving people in our party. No, I've never seen a situation, we want people. Look, as he's talking now, he seems to be talking alone. His other colleagues in the PD, even those that have picked forms, they are not castigating other people the way he is doing. Of course, he has the right to be, but there's limit to the extent you express yourself in the manner he did. If you look at the APC, today, those people that occupy the biggest positions in the leadership of the National Working Committee of the PDP, of the APC, they have traces of history in the PDP. In fact, some Nigerians are saying that PDP has taken over the APC, even though I didn't align with that kind of thoughts, because APC, some of them entered APC at the time APC had not even gone into election. APC is just at the formative stage. They're just trying to package the party when people like Abdullahi Adamu entered. But at least they accepted them. They even trust them so much that, look, yes, you are used to being in another party, but now you are with us. We are one family. And that sense of belonging, it's really encouraging for them to do even more for the party. Because there are some people who felt legitimately positioned to be one, either party chairman or party secretary. But they say, no, these are the people that we trust. They look at the people that can deliver. I think Wike and the PDP should look at it in that direction. You don't just cast away people because you are going into an election and you are coming with fire. You are spitting fire. You are castigating your people, saying a lot of unprintable things politically about them. I think it is very wrong for him to go. Yes, he should show anger. But at the point, he just cool down and say, look, let's see that. But I'm happy that I'm reading in the news saying that, okay, if it is zoned and it is not to the south, he may step down. And I said, but all he wanted, they shouldn't jettison the spirit of zoning, which I think he's calming down. But this is politics. Politicians know how to sort themselves out at the end of the day.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So, but Doctor, there's another issue that has come up in this election, particularly in the PDP, which is the cost of their nomination forms. If you wanted to be, if we wanted to have a presidential candidate in the name of Dr. Kashmir Ifeanyi, you will have had to pay 40 million naira. You know, for governor, that's about half. I think
21
it's 20
million.
Right? You know, and member House of Reps, Senator 10 million or 5 million. Member House of Reps 3.5 billion. So to what extent does it help an opposition party's chances in terms of getting the right kind of candidates that would drive, you know, the election, that would drive the electorate, that would drive voters, you know, that will get voters animated in the election, or even the, you know, the issues in the election as we go ahead with it? I was asking Dr.
Okay. Now let me respond. Well, the critical minimum you can do to indicate your interest, to let people know that you aspire to lead them, is to pick up the two forms, expression of interest form and the nomination form. And if we go back in time from 1999 till date, and we decide to denominate the cost of form in dollars, you will find out that it is cheaper now than it was in 1999. So I do not see any problem with that. The reason being that you want to lead the most populous black people on earth, a country with close to 240 million, a country that has the richest natural resources globally. So you are not coming for a mean feat. It's not tea party. I do not think that 40 million is it is not way out of cost for form. When the other party announces this, we will know. Now, having said that, I also think it will not deter those who really want to serve. Because across the globe, electioneering is very costly. Even in the very advanced democracies, very costly. Part of what gave it to Trump last time was that he came with a deep pocket. Obama didn't come with a deep pocket, but Obama galvanized resources, including Biden. So for me, I do not have any issue with the cost of the form. If you want to aspire, then you should do that critical minimum. Because once you get the nomination of the party, the bulk of the burden will be borne by the party. So it's important that you prove beyond reasonable doubt to the party that you are worth your salt and you are committing this much to indicate interest. So the cost of form for me is very reasonable, even though we live in challenging times. But you are talking about those who want to. Do you know how much a senator takes home every month? Have we reviewed that?
But that's precisely the point, Maali Haruna, that if you selling nomination forms at such exorbitant rates, then maybe the citizens shouldn't worry about good governance. Maybe the citizens shouldn't worry about things like quality of governance, because if somebody has to pay for that, then it's an investment, and he will want to get back his investment in the first instance before even thinking of the voters that put him, because he has had to pay money into it. And then there is also minority groups that are already disadvantaged, like women, like young people, all of whom would also want to participate, not just as voters, but also as contenders for various offices. So a young person who is 35 years in Nigeria, or who is even 40 years in Nigeria, how many jobs has he had? How many opportunities has he had to put away money to be able to pay nomination forms for 3.5 million or 2.5 million for member House of Assembly, you know, and things like that. So how does that square up for the wider electorate who may be interested in the elections?
I think I will take side with Doctor on this matter, because I think it's an instrument the party is using to sanitize the process. You see, when you say it is free, or when you say it is less than this, then you make it so chaotic. A lot of everybody, even somebody that doesn't have genuine intention of coming to the ballot, he just want to appear in the ballot, and you may end up having a very chaotic ballot, because everybody says, I'm qualified to be a candidate, I'm qualified to be an aspirant, and so on. I think we shouldn't judge it at the level of the party nomination. Where I will go against party money politics is at the level of campaigns, is at the level of voting, buying voting. Because at that point, when I spend my money, when I give you 1 naira and you vote for me, you didn't love me, you love my money. But at the level of party nomination, I think it's just to sanitize it, to see that there's some level of decorum. Yeah, some people have money, they don't even know what to do with it. It's okay, just go and buy phone, let's go and cause problem in that place, and so on. We've seen a situation whereby an election that was concluded was annulled because somebody in one small party, I beg, with all respect to all small political parties, but that guy, if he could not even campaign, but unfortunately, his name did not appear on the ballot. And he waited, he didn't say anything. At the end of the day, he went to court, and they had to talk about cancelling that election because of him. So it's a matter of trying to sanitize the system, trying to make it more organized, and so on. So party have to put a lot of measures. If you look at it, if you go into elections... What
about screening candidates rather than charging high?
Yeah.
Couldn't you sanitize the system that way?
Screening, I don't know what yardstick you are going to use in screening candidates, because with Nigerians, we have over 200 million people, and we have very, very qualified people that can contest for any position in this country. We have qualified people. And as for women, in other climes, see, you need to have a pedigree. You need to have a background maybe in community service, in leadership, for you to even come out and say, I want to contest for an election. If you are popular and you tell your friends, look, I'm going to buy a form and I know I can deliver, I believe me, your friends will gather money and buy the form for you. Though some politicians, even the rich ones, will come and say, my friends bought it for me. But I've seen a situation whereby a candidate in Bauchi for House Assembly election does not have a bicycle, but he wanted to be House Assembly member. When he was going to submit his nomination form, it's supposed to be a fanfare. He was on a bike. Somebody took him to that place. He doesn't have the fear for it. He was given a ride to the party office, and he submitted his form. But people love him, and they elected him. So it's not about we have money. If you have a pedigree, if you have a history of being trusted, of leadership in the past, if you come out genuinely, I want to become president, I want to become governor, I want to be senator, and they believe in you. Your friends will crowdfund your nomination form, and they'll buy it for you. So I think people, that's why when we say the issue of not too young to run, we have to look at it very critically. If you want to be a leader, you have to start from primary school, from secondary school, you're doing your NYSC, what kind of community services do you offer? You know, in your association, what kind of leadership role have you taken? And so on. These are the things you should look at. And when you can present that credential, your friends, your colleagues, the people that know you will buy the form for you if you don't have the means of buying the form. So I think it shouldn't be an issue. The money, the cost of party nomination form shouldn't be an issue. But money politics, spending money, either it's public or stolen and so on, is what I go against. Or some people will take loan. Some people go as far as taking loan to contest an election. And when they want that seat, they will not think about the electorate. They will not think about the masses. They have to service that loan first. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Dr. Fenyi, then this leads to other issues in this election for the PDP. That, okay, PDP wants to take power from the APC. They want, you know, to displace the APC, not just in the presidential level, but also at other levels of the elections. For example, the state governorship elections, you know, now they have about 16, right? I mean, 22, then about 14 they have now. So they want to be at least 18 or 19 or 20 to have majority of that. But also at the National Assembly, they want to have more senators and more House of Reps members, you know. But Nigerians are saying they have not really had any plans that the PDP has that are different from what the APC are offering now.
Okay. You recall that in 2015, we had a long list, different versions of purported APC manifesto. When they came to power, they denied all those things that were making round. And they were not holding people to task to say, did you hear it from the mouth of the president? So, the truth is this. Our democracy is yet to evolve, to become ideological. And so insofar our democracy hasn't become ideological, you wouldn't be expecting parties to have manifestos that will be distinct from the loose arrangement where we have now a former BOT secretary is the chairman of another party. You see, I would want to drop a word about that nomination prize. In 2015, if my memory serves me right, President Muhammad Buhari told Nigerians that he had to approach his bank for a loan to obtain the form. The form then was 20-something million.
25.
Good. So that is why I said that the 40 million for president is cheap, considerably so. Having said that, I think that what we want to hear now is not what the parties will tell us. Let the individual aspirants, and when they become candidates, go into covenant with the Nigerian people so we can hold them on the basis of the things they elected freely on their own to promise Nigerians. Because we do not, there's no, according to Dr. Obieze Kwesili, the PDP and APC, there's no ideology. They are almost indistinguishable in structure and approach. So for me, I have said at the beginning, PDP should have one aim. Let us take back power. They should avoid the distraction that will be occasioned by zoning. That is what is important. They must throw up their best 11, the captain of the best 11. That is what Nigerians are expecting. Like you said, they intend to sweep power. Unfortunately, the ruling party may have given them the leeway because the level of discontent is palpable. And so, they say in my place in local parlance, if you check where to lay your hand and you can't find, you put it on your knee. People may be going back to the PDP.
That's interesting. The PDP should put up their best 11. We hope that Nigeria had put up its own best 11 at the weekend during the match against Ghana. But then tomorrow is another day. Thank you for coming on the show, Madam
It's a pleasure.
Haruna. Thank you also for coming on the show, Dr. Ifeanyi Kasmir. It's been nice and wonderful having the two of you. Thank you also for staying with us, viewers. We hope that you join us tomorrow again for another edition of Daily Politics on Trust TV. My name is Suleiman Suleiman. Goodbye.